Okay, good morning. Welcome to the town hall, the special panel dedicated to impact the future under the challenge Compassion AI. Personally, me, it's Robert Kroplewski. I'm a plenipotentiary of Minister of Digital Affairs in Poland, responsible for information society. I'm engaged in many international expert group designing the artificial intelligence approach to policy and some law and recommendations. I have a very special guest in our town hall. Some of them are in present here, some of online. With us here in the room, we have David Hanson, Hanson Robotics. So you know him probably from the robot Sophia. With me on the right side is a host of GAIA Foundation, what is a reason of our meeting today, the Pyrek, a visionary, and even the good creator of approach to the Compassion AI. With me is my co-moderator, Damian Ciachorowski, and online, the chief, the president of the board, the GAIA Foundation, and online we have Tom Eddington, and we have other guy, Marc Buckley, and also Marko Grobelnik from the Jozef Stefan Institute. Online could be, but it could be also difficult to participate. Emma Ruttkamp, professor from the University of Pretoria. We had her intervention by a recording video, what we would like to present during our sessions. On the beginning, I would like to present as a first thoughts of overview worldwide some outputs delivery of international engaging to produce some recommendation for artificial intelligence. But first of all, we need to say why we organized that meeting, the town hall. World produced many papers to artificial intelligence, to recommendation how to responsibly implement it, and how to define the best ethical approach to the artificial intelligence. But still, we have a competition run. It's some asymmetry between the ethical approach, what was developed as a trustworthy artificial intelligence approach, to practical and deployment of artificial intelligence. We still, from the ethical point of view, are in the utilitarianism, what means we can exploit any resources and scale our business on business model. It's the theory goes to the practice from the ethical perspective, but we still in the process. The landscape of policies and recommendation comes from the OECD policy recommendations, UNESCO ethics for artificial intelligence, also European Union with the guidelines for trustworthy artificial intelligence, and Artificial Intelligence Act, what probably will be the first binding instrument around the globe from the legal perspective, how to empower the ethics and the implementation of ethical dimensions to the artificial intelligence system and organizations. Next binding instrument will come from the Council of Europe, what is the first organization around the globe, what would like to promote the first treaty in the domain of human rights, democracy, rule of law, and artificial intelligence. But the serious talk is still continuing among the Transatlantic Technology Council and experts, when in that the teams is discussing the topic of value chains, so of course microelectronics, and also the approach to the artificial intelligence, trustworthy or responsible. This is very, very important. NATO is also engaged, but from the standardization point of view, how to share data, how to share the artificial intelligence algorithms among the members of the NATO. But we must say that the road from artificial intelligence from the scientist perspective to today, it's still not finished. We started deal from chaos. Anybody could do anything with artificial intelligence from the technical point of view. We got it the trust as the main element of any recommendations, what was shifted and converged to the trustworthy artificial intelligence, but we still feel and know that it's some gap over that recommendations, like a compassion approach, and because of that we invited the GAIA Foundation to say about this a bit more. And as experts and as policymakers, we get some difficulties how approaches to find to solve problems and to deal with benefits of artificial intelligence and how to manage the risk. And the stage started from the control perspective and supervisory, especially the human oversight, but to the very good approach, what is this addition, something more than governing, the stewardship. We still before the care approaches, and finally maybe this is a good point now on IGF to talk about the compassion approach to artificial intelligence. And from that perspective, we would like to underline some values what is in the loop of our discussion today, coming from the many papers what I would like to underline. And the main compass for solving any conflicts among values was produced by UNESCO recommendation. It's a special triangle between the human individual dignity, well-being, and no harm. This is a compass for everything. We, of course, as policymakers, started to deal with asymmetry of access to knowledge, computing power, experience and participation from the democratization point of view and from the informative point of view and educational point of view. But still, it's a very beginning stage of flourishing the ecosystem, engaging the SMEs, engaging the scientists, engaging even the policymakers to build the solid ecosystem, not for only ones, for giants, but for everybody who would like to participate in to producing benefits for planet and benefits for people. That conjunction is very important. That conjunction was developed in the OECD, that we must see not only benefits of people, not only benefits of planet, but in that conjunction. That kind of approach is the main of the principle of OECD recommendation. And because of that, we try to look for how to find the new approaches what could cover the gaps. The gaps is still oneness in diversity. This is the beginning base of developing the compassion AI on my approach, and because of that we have our guest today. And now I would like to give the mic to my co-host Eddie to present the roadmap. What is a GAIA Foundation, and what was your work since some years today?
A few years ago we understood very well with David Hanson and my friend Piotr that we are on the crossroad. Every decision which we'll take, it can change everything. I mean, just we didn't have the time to make the mistakes, not only because of the climate changing, the war and pandemics, etc., but mainly because of the artificial intelligence. We already know that before we started creating the internet, we didn't ask ourselves how dangerous can be the internet, and now we have time. We still have the time to decide how the future of AI will look like. First, we come to the conclusion with David and Piotr that we should create a global and ethical AI. But first the question was ethics. What kind of ethics we can have? Polish ethics, Russian ethics, Chinese ethics, Buddhist ethics, Muslim ethics. The ethics depends on the culture and depends on the religion. But when we started to study different religion and different civilization, different culture, we understood that each of this religion, if of this philosophical system have one thing in common, without these things, we will no religion. It's compassion. Without compassion, we have no Buddhists, no Muslims. Without the compassion, we didn't have even civilization and evolution, because we evolved, because we know how to cooperate. Without the compassion, we have no evolution. And because of this, in 2020, yes, we create GAIA Global Artificial Intelligence Alliance. We decide to concentrate on the creating decentralized and based on the compassion AI. And in 2021, during the preparation for AGF, we announced GAIA to the public, and we started talking about the compassion, about the things which we would like to achieve. 1 year later in Warsaw, during the virtual Florence, the first meeting on virtual Florence, and now I'd like to explain what is the virtual Florence. Virtual Florence, it's an international group of experts from different fields. We split them for 4 groups. First, business, but not only business, the politics and media. Second, technology, science, and the 4th one, spirituality. But spirituality not only meaning the spiritual teachers or religion leaders, but spirituality, it's mean psychology, it mean arts, and it's mean, and it means spiritual teacher too. And why we do this? Because we are thinking that we couldn't create AI of future just based off the IT guys. The AI of the future should be created by the people from different fields, because AI, it is our future. It couldn't be created by just one group of the people who decide in which direction we should go. Especially when you are looking at our civilization and religion, each civilization have mix of the amazing geniuses, amazing ideas. And during our first virtual Florence meeting, we develop a special tools for collective creativity. We collect these experts from different fields and give them the tools to create the idea in which direction we should go. First, we create the definition of the compassion, because if we would like to create compassion AI, first we should know what is compassion. Second, we create a special IP. It is compassion AI models, where we understood that if you would like to create AI of future, we should use the loop in which we have not only human and AI, but when we have the 2 very important things which always appear, especially this is what we understood our workshop, that the biggest things which we are facing now, it's a fear. Fear because we are afraid of AI. We are afraid of the future, and when we are afraid, we couldn't do anything, because the fear is stopping us. Then we understood that we should not only with compassion, but we should work with the fear of the humans too. Then this is our compassion AI models, which help us, which we believe it's help us later in future to teach AI compassion or compassionate. On the second, yes?
If I can intervene, this, because that is interesting. And
please,
that you can. What I see in that model, your thing is the proposition how to deal with fear and convert this on compassion, is one approach, and how to deal with humans and to redesign the artificial intelligence system, be able finally to deal and to express the compassion experience.
Exactly like this. Thank you very much, Robert, for your explanation. You do it better than me. During the second virtual Florence in Salzburg in March 2023, we tried to put our idea into the product. And after the 1 day or 2 days of workshop with this expert from different fields, and we have physicists like Professor Krzysztof Meissner, the right hand of Roger Penrose, the best physicist in Poland. We have David Hanson, but a part of this amazing people we have with us, the android with AI. We have the android with AI, because again, if we are talking about the future of AI, we should including AI into this conversation, into this work. And during the workshop, we come to the conclusion that all what we can do, we can create the tool where we can, with the AI, that we can teach people compassion, because we think if we would like to create a compassion world, compassion AI, first we started thinking how we can be compassion, how the human be compassion. And yes.
And now what I understood from our conversation offline, that if the output of that virtual Florence is a call for developers, yes?
Yeah, it's a call for developers. It's a competition, how to create an environment or a platform, a solution which use gamification, the flow state, to teach in psychological safe way the things like positive behavior, how to take care about the nature, how to teach the people about arts and development. And it was happened during the 2023, in March, during the conference in Salzburg. Our next step, it was Geneva AI conference, AI for Good. But during this conference, we have the kick-off, the meeting about the GAIA Guardians. GAIA Guardians, it's a platform, but during this kickoff, we had such amazing people like David Hanson, but Ben Gertzer, the creator of General Artificial Intelligence concept, and Stefan Ibaraki, the creator of AI for Good in UN. And together with them, we started working on the platform or organization who will create decentralized AI in future. Our idea was to collect all people who would like to create this decentralized AI and going the same, and show them the direction and going the same in the same direction. Okay, and now we are in Kyoto because we are here because we are here to present our idea to the policymakers and to remind them that if you would like to have the really big change, we couldn't work only from the top to the bottom, but we should work from the up to the bottom. It must be including. It's amazing that we can work on the law, on the regulation, but at the same time, we all, the AI guys, the spiritual teachers, the mothers, the fathers, the cook, we all should work together to create this AI of the future. It's no problem.
What I understand from this, you try to propose that talking about the law, recommendation, policy making principles, it's one thing, but we need some very concrete product, yes, some special technical environment.
Of course,
as
because
a sample.
Yes, of course, because it's not enough to talking. I mean, just sorry, but quite often I am using the words intellectual masturbation. But this is the things which I have too often I witnessed during all kinds of the conference. We have amazing conversation. Everybody thinks that I am the best. We know how to save the world, and everything is ending after the conference. We need to product. We need to call to action. We need to have the impact, and this is why another milestone. Will be this March 2024 in Salzburg. We are making AI Impact Summit. That we would like to attract all guys, all people who are working with AI and with the impact, and show them that we are not creating AI for fun, to watching porn and watching cats and have better cars. We are creating AI to save us. We are creating AI because we need AI. AI it can be the most dangerous things in the world. It can be the tools for massive destruction, and it can be the only one hope for us. But without AI, we couldn't. With AI, I deeply believe we can solve the problem of climate change, with the sicknesses, with illness, with the war, etc., etc. But only in the situation when this AI will be decentralized and will be based on the compassion. When we are thinking about sustainability goals, only 16% of our dreams happen now. Why? Because we have no compassion. If we have the compassion, we will not kill the nature. If we have the compassion, there will be no war. This is why we need compassion. We need AI with the compassion because we need AI who will show us our blind spot, who will teach us more about our humanity, who will teach us more about arts, about consciousness even, about emotion. And this is why we need compassion AI, to teach us, to be our partner.
Thank you, Eddie. What I get it, even underlying the risks, you believe that AI could be beneficial from the compassion point of view.
Yes, without the ethics, without the compassion, it can be danger. Yeah. We are screwed.
Thank you for that. Now we would like to ask my colleague, co-moderator Damian, to play the video from the Emma Ruttkamp, professor from the Pretoria University. She was one of a co-designer, the ethical recommendation coming from the UNESCO. Please, Damian, make our playing. is coming. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me and for event. I'm very sorry that I can't join you in person. And not only that, I can't even join you for questions.
One more.
Unfortunately, technology is not that far evolved. One could join a Zoom meeting from an airplane.
One more time.
But please.
We have some technical issue. Give our some seconds. Już początku.
And not only that, I can't even join you for questions. Unfortunately, technology is not that far evolved. One could join a Zoom meeting from an airplane. But please connect with me on this talk if you have any questions or you just want to have further discussions. So the title of my talk is A Global Compassionate AI Ethics, and I'm going to tell you what I think that could be in the context of the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI. So I want to first reflect a little bit with you on why is AI technology important? Why is this, where does all this agitation come from? So this is a technology that is advancing at high speed, and it is a technology that to various degrees and in various ways threaten human agency and autonomy. And we want human-centered technology that in various degrees keep humans on the loop. Secondly, it's a technology that can leverage massive amounts of complex data in ways that humans can't do. And this is part of the reason of developing the technology, of course, but it also brings, of course, certain concerns. And thirdly, it impacts humans in all facets of their lives. More far removed ones in terms of legal issues of accountability and responsibility, maybe, but very intimate ones also in terms of inclusivity and non-discrimination, in terms of the right not to be manipulated, the right to mental integrity, and so on. But also, this technology is so fascinating because it has an immense powerful good, and on the flip side, it has an immense powerful harm. So what we have to figure out is how to maximize the powerful good and minimize the powerful harm. So against this background, I want to talk to you about the global recommendation on the ethics of AI, because for these reasons, and also based on a report from the World Commission on the Ethics of Scientific Knowledge and Technology, the UNESCO General Assembly in its 40th session asked UNESCO to elaborate a global instrument on the ethics of AI. This work took from April 2020, smack in the middle of lockdown, until November 2021, when 193 member states adopted the recommendation. Just shortly again, why, from a slightly different perspective, why do we need this recommendation? AI technology is threatening harm to individuals in such deep layers of their lives that ultimately the harm will be to humanity as a whole. There's the complexity of the ethical issues that it brings that I've already spoken about. And then realizing sustainable AI development requires international cooperation because the companies that develop this technology are transnational companies. So we need global cooperation in terms of ensuring responsible governance of these technologies. Also, widening the inequality gap in the end will backfire on everyone. Think of Africa, the African continent, which is the continent with the lowest median age. If Africa is left behind again, it will impact on the whole world in various ways. Then, of course, what is the value of the recommendation? And this is very, very important to understand or to realize. It will lead to cooperation and shared responsibility of multiple stakeholders across various levels and sectors of international, regional, and national communities. So now if we just take a second to think about the aims and objectives, so obviously this recommendation aims to provide a basis to make AI systems work for the good of humanity, to bring a globally accepted normative instrument with a strong emphasis on inclusion issues of gender equality and protection of the environment and ecosystem. So it's about the good of humanity, but it's also about the good of the environment and ecosystems. And there is this focus on inclusion issues, specifically in terms of gender. So on the whole, the recommendation aims then to enable stakeholders to take shared responsibility based on a global and intercultural dialogue. So, and here is the first glimpse of the compassion AI. The values that we identified in the final version of the recommendation, that member states identified in the, for the final version: respect, protection, and promotion of human rights and fundamental freedoms and human dignity, environment and ecosystem flourishing, ensuring diversity and inclusiveness, living in peaceful, just, and interconnected societies. The principles, we have quite a lot, well-known ones like safety and security, like fairness and non-discrimination, the right to privacy, human oversight and determination, transparency, explainability, responsibility and accountability. But we also have a new one, proportionality and do no harm, which is basically about situating a risk-based approach in the core of the recommendation. And also we have sustainability as a principle, where usually, if mentioned, it's a value. And this is to, in a sense, concretize the value of environment and ecosystem protection, because while this technology can really help to reach the SDGs, it can only do that if we understand that there is a continuum of factors that impact on whether on the level of realizing these goals in various regions of the world. And then we have the multi-stakeholder and adaptive governance and collaboration, and we have awareness and literacy as our last principle, because civil society is an AI ethicist's biggest friend. But we did not stop with values and principles. We wanted to figure out how to focus on the how and not just on the what. So we had to find a way in which to make the recommendation concrete enough to make an impact, firm, but also at the same time open enough to ensure adherence, subtle enough to have validity in the future, which is a really tall order, as you all know, and then somehow to ensure that the actions, the sum of the actions, will achieve trustworthiness of this technology. In order to do this, we identified 11 areas of policy action, and we gave detailed actions in each area of policy action, and so that member states have some guidance on how to concretize the values and principles. This recommendation also has a very robust section on evaluation and monitoring, because UNESCO is completely committed in supporting member states in the implementation of this recommendation. And UNESCO has already developed a methodology for ethical impact assessment. Important methodology that takes into account that member states will be at different stages of readiness to implement the recommendation. And there are various other ways in which UNESCO is willing to support member states. But now, having given the background of the recommendation, let's take a few seconds to just move now into the compassion AI. What could this possibly be? Now, I want you to just honestly just take a second to reflect on the answer that you would have for each of these questions. Who are you? What would be the main quality that you would use to describe yourself to other people? What determines the nature of your thoughts and actions? What determines your agency or your autonomy? What link is there between your autonomy and your moral responsibilities? And what does respect for your autonomy require from other moral agents? So if we, on the basis of those questions, I want to tell you about my notion of positive AI ethics. And I do this by just quickly introducing you of an approach in philosophy when we consider issues of the meaning of life and we think about how to achieve a life of well-being. Philosophers such as Amartya Sen and Marko Nussbaum came up in this context with the capability approach. And in terms of this approach, capabilities are political entitlements that impose duties on governments to enable its citizens or their citizens to realize lives of well-being. Now, in the context of AI, if we ask what kind of entitlements will allow humans positive liberty and capabilities, so we not maybe political entitlements, what kind of entitlements will do this, but what is positive liberty? Isaiah Berlin made the distinction between negative and positive liberty. Negative liberty is simply the absence of obstacles to realize one's freedom. Positive liberty is more interesting because it is about doing something with this liberty, doing something so that you actionalize the liberty that you have to live a life of well-being, to take control of your life. And this then moves into the notion of capabilities. That is about what you need to achieve a life of well-being, not having the ideal only of a life of well-being. So I think obviously that the kind of entitlements that we need are ethical entitlements. And in the AI ethics context, these entitlements place positive duties on all AI actors. What are positive duties? And this is also philosophical, an old philosophical concept, the distinction between negative and positive duties. Philosophers such as Immanuel Kant wrote on this, but more recently, Leitinen and others wrote on this in the context of AI ethics. So negative duties is simply do no harm. So where positive duties, again, is the more interesting one because it is about protecting the vulnerable such that no harm is done onto them. So it is about doing something with the fact that you have a duty placed upon you. So in this context, AI ethics would enable humans to flourish, would enable meaningful technology society interplay, which is really important, and would maintain the integrity of technological processes and not stop innovation as something. So the compassionate argument for AI ethics is then AI innovation for the good of humanity relies on the actualization of certain ethical values and principles as ethical entitlements or capabilities in terms of positive actions as duties that will actively prevent harm and support human agency and autonomy. And I forgot to say on the previous slide, these duties are duties that all AI actors share. And AI actors incorporate the researchers, the designers, the developers, the deployers, the users. So obviously governments are also included here. So AI ethics in this sense, to give you an example, translates and actualize ethical entitlements such as the right to privacy, to realize positive liberty, to, for instance, then decide whether or not to sign a consent letter in terms of positive actions for AI actors, for instance, ensuring responsible third-party sharing, access to own data, and so on. So to end off, a bit of philosophical reflection, and again, thinking about the whole aim of compassion AI. What does it matter to reflect on what it is to be human in the area of AI? What does it matter? Why are we doing this? It ensures that AI ethics becomes actionable and positive. It establishes ethics as a human technology mediator, not an add-on, not a top-down, but presents ethics, in fact, as a dynamic mechanism for translating abstract principles into positive duties and actions for AI actors to achieve a life of well-being for all. So it affirms ethics as a compass and enabler of human flourishing and trustworthy, sustainable technology.
Thank you, Emma, very much for your insight of work of compassion, and be open for redefining that outputs of UNESCO for new approach and to find some solution to cover the gaps. What I gathered from your presentation, what I like super much is positive liberty as some new dimension. Positive actors we needed. That is a very good what was underlined. But on the beginning, still we need to work with the approach of intercultural exchanging any values, any assets, any possibilities. And with that thoughts, I would like to give the mic to David Hanson, designer and the founder of Hanson Robotics, known Sophia Robots. David, if the high-tech industry is able to adopt that kind of idea, thoughts, and to do something positive and be positive actors finally, if you could share with us some thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Excellent discussion. on some very important issues of how AI can impact human lives. So AI is a tool. And in a way, it is a portal to access our own information in some regards. So it's a bio-inspired technology, inspired loosely by the way spiking neurons work in nervous systems. And it then accesses human data to find hidden patterns in human data. There are some very interesting implications that these technologies could, by being bio-inspired enough, systemically, they could become living beings that we have to then consider as potentially sentient, autonomous beings deserving respect. But this is science fiction today. We don't have deep sentience in machines. There might be glimmers of life because these are bio-inspired technologies, inspired by our fundamental information that we're gleaning from biology. And you see these feedback loops where the technologies are then enabling the discovery of new aspects of intelligence. We are representing this in computational biology and computational neuroscience, and then those are informing new architectures in artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And so behind the scenes, these technologies are advancing very quickly. And that is moving most rapidly in the corporate sector. So we're seeing corporations taking the risks and raising the money to propel these technologies forward in ways that are very helpful to us, that are transformative, that enable new discoveries. So let me give you some examples. AlphaFold from DeepMind has applied artificial intelligence to unlock proteomes, the functioning molecular components that build everything that lives. And so you go from the genome to the proteome, and the proteome builds everything else, and that's us. So AlphaFold discovered the human proteins, or gave us tremendous clues about all the human proteins, and now all the proteins in nature, and then they released this open source, and it's facilitating really a revolution in biosciences. So then from the corporate sector to the public sector, you're seeing this kind of transformative cascade of the technologies. Of course, a lot of these ideas came from academia, came from kind of esoteric 50, 60 years of research in information sciences that did give us things like, the computing. Some of the thinkers like Turing were, and von Neumann were also considering the impact of artificial intelligence. So a lot of the thinkers in the world that gave us the computing revolution and the internet, all these information technologies, were thinking about thinking machines and laid the foundations that only became so obvious to lawmakers and the public within the last few years that, well, it started much earlier than that. So this dynamic interplay between policy, academia, the thinkers of the world, and the corporate sector has been at play. So the question is, how can we take these forces and factors and make them better for the greater good? And I think about compassion. Compassion, for me, to distill it down to a simple definition, to give my definition to the many definitions that people are providing, for me, compassion is the appreciation of life. It's that simple. To appreciate life, life in all its diversity, life as a whole sustainable ecosystem, life that was in the past, the history of life, the natural history of life, life as it is today, as dynamic systems that we may not understand. We do not understand much of how life works. Even human biology, we don't understand a lot of aspects of human cognition. So it's not just appreciating the things we know, but also appreciating the fact that there are many things we don't know. It's also appreciating the diversity of human life in all its form and the interdependence of humans on the web of life. And so with this concept of compassion, I see reflections in many of the traditions of compassion. And one tradition, or I would say insight into compassion that relates to artificial intelligence, was from a science fiction writer named Philip K. Dick, who wrote an essay called The Android and the Human. And he said the difference between, and this was in the early 1970s, the difference between humans and machines is compassion. It's that simple. And that he went on to say that a machine that could express more compassion than a human, in effect, would be more human than a human who lacks compassion. And humans are amazing with our neuroplasticity, our ability to adapt. And we are, in effect, defined by that. The difference between humans today and humans 50,000 years ago is the technology of our language, more than anything, probably, the technology of our ideas that are built, and that the conveyance of those through the machines that we build, in effect, externalize this, but our minds continue to evolve. And this idea of compassion then expressed through the technologies that we make in our corporations, in our schools, but we get out through some sustainable economic factors, because there's not just the economics of the ecosystem. Certainly energy exchanges, a kind of economy in the ecosystems, but we have to make things that give people jobs and make money and keep things from collapsing. There has to be economic sustainability. And so the corporate sector can facilitate this in a way, but we have to look at the bigger picture, because it's bad economics if we're only serving next quarter profits for publicly traded companies. We have to look at the economics of 100 years, of 1,000 years. We have to look at the economics of our children. So the only way that corporate activities make sense is in this larger picture, this web of compassion. And so humans will desensitize ourselves. One of the approaches, unfortunately, is that we can filter our sense of compassion in order to achieve something that we want. And this is a problem. We see it. We're evolved this way. We have the neural architecture of chimpanzees, basically. We are the third chimpanzee, as Jared Diamond says. And so we have to use these technologies to help us to actualize. There will be so much more profit for all of life if we can do this. If we can achieve this ethics of greater appreciation of life, of life's potential, appreciation for not just the way that life has been and is today, but could be in the future. So humanizing robots has been my aim, but in the goal of creating AI that can enhance human caring, can help us to awaken to caring, and then may eventually be capable of caring. Right now, GPT algorithms and models that are created, anything like Claude, GPT-4, etc. Luther is an open source version. There are many of these out there, not just ChatGPT, but they don't care. None of them actually care. You can prompt them to behave like they care, but they do not care. So it is up to us to care about the future, up to us to enhance our capability of caring. So the question, and it is not an answer, it is a question, how can we in industry and academia and government and non-governmental organizations and as individuals, how can we create these technologies that enhance caring? And I would say that the UN is a machine for that, in effect. But we need to make it move towards action. not another form of escapism. How can we create the actual tools of democratization of AI and put them together into something like an AI commons that serves a greater good and not a special interest of any one corporation or one government for one nation or a few nations collecting together, but create the smartest, best, most compassionate AI that brings out the most compassionate aspects of humanity for people around the world? This is a question. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for very good, valuable presentation. Your speech and very emphasized, energetic. That is good. What I get it. Understanding compassion as a appreciation. That is a noun and verb. We must understand in deep sense what is a compassion and act, do something on positive, as Emma said before, way, collaborating and democratizing assets, collaboration, and this. Yes,
compassion in action is very important, because otherwise it's an escapism into a fantasy about compassion.
Yeah, this is that. And I would like to ask Marc Buckley, excuse me, for a short advocem to speech of David. If you see possible this from the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals experience, your experience working with this. Marc, you are invited.
Absolutely. I really love what David said, and I agree. There are a few things that are really interesting, because never before in human history have we ever went from one age or epoch or had a transformation without some form of technology: the pneumatic tire, the steam engine, the printing press, the computer. And it's interesting that we're at that same pivotal moment in time, that now we've got AI, we've got emerging technologies that really are on the cusp of helping humanity to make it into a new age or epoch. I deeply believe we need to leave the Anthropocene and get into a new age or epoch. The problem is we're fallible. We're not concise. We're not in agreement with one another, and we need some kind of innovation or system out there that helps us guide in the right direction with that compassion, with that ethics, to give us the support and the knowledge and the training of cumulative human wisdom, so we don't make the same mistakes or repeat the same things over and over again. AI has many examples of how that can integrate with the Sustainable Development Goals. This first time in human history, it's the first ever global moonshot, the first ever Earth shot, where 197 countries came together for the first time ever and agreed on plans, actions, a roadmap for the future, a people plan, a protection plan, an insurance plan for humanity. The big issue is there's a lot of debate and controversy because there's no collective intelligence, no AI to accumulate all that knowledge and show us the innovative way to go forward and kind of be the mediator between us all. At the beginning of what David said as well, we talked about sentience, he talked about economics. We need to make aware that it's not the debate of sentience, but are we having technology domesticate human beings, or are we domesticating technology? And are we willing to, what are we as humanity willing to sacrifice for technology? The other big factor is, by having this help and this guide that has compassion, has ethics, and is innovated, that can really give us that edge exponentially to move in the future, so that we're holding to the goals, the targets, the indicators, the monies, the transformation. And that's where what David said about economics, most people don't know that the Sustainable Development Goals are an entirely new ecological economic model. $90 trillion by December 2030 to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. If you don't think that $90 trillion is an economic model, I don't know what is. And in the Netherlands, the tulip economy is a lot less than 90 trillion, and it's considered its own economic model. This is a new ecological economic model that is a plan and a way forward for humanity that I think businesses can use. And David touched upon it so eloquently, and I'm really in full agreement that as we do that, we do it in the right way, we can make some huge achievements and really achieve the goals in a short possible time. And the economic model is already there.
Thank you, Mark, very much for that intervention. That probably is the best moment when I could invite Tom Eddington for 8 minutes speech. If the big business is able to share assets to empower the sustainable development goals, even being actualized by well-being, human dignity perspective, ethical perspective. What do you think, Tom? Oh, sorry, we don't hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Yeah. I think, talking about business and business opportunities, just a little bit of background first. I believe that when we're talking about AI, we're at a Promethean moment when Prometheus, the god of fire, brought fire to humanity. That's where we are as a species with regard to AI. We have this carbon, silicon relationship and that's being generated, being formed. Businesses are trying to make sense of it. We don't have defined business models yet. There's billions of dollars being spent on AI. Each of the businesses that have spent those kinds of money, Amazon most recently, their $4 billion acquisition, they're all trying to figure out how are they going to make money with AI. And they're looking through the lens of commercialization. They're looking through the lens of making money. And they're not looking through the lens of some of the other points that have been already raised by David and others, Mark. And that's, unfortunately, that's where we will find ourselves, is similar to what's happened with climate change. If we go back to 1971, the Secretary General of the United Nations said, without, with all of the geniuses and with all of their skills, they ran out of foresight and air and food and water and ideas. Antonio Guterres in 2021, once again, was talking about climate change and the hubris of business, the hubris of our leaders are looking at AI solely through the lens of commercialization, solely through the lens of market share, and bringing common business practices to a new technology, a new way of doing business, seeing huge market opportunities without really looking at the potential impact on humanity. We've got August 22nd of this year was the World Overshoot Day, when we use more resources on the planet for the year than what resources are available. And AI has the potential to help us solve that. It has the potential to help us accelerate that and create even more of a problem. So if there's not something that helps guide businesses in their decision-making process, that helps inform the creation of their business models, like an AI charter, similar to the Earth Charter that was created in the 1990s, we run the risk of the extermination of the human species. And so looking at creating not only regulation and policy, but incorporating compassion, looking at decentralization versus centralization, as we've seen with power generation, and really looking at processes and methodologies to match the problem. So using a public health model or virology model or war games model, internet cybersecurity model, scenario planning models to really understand and define the potential risk of AI, and how and who should be overseeing and having impact on the thinking behind it. And I look at someone like Nicholas Robinson at Pace University, who said generative AI is emerging faster than we can cope. So we need not try to outrun the machine, but regain mastery of ourselves and our ethics and create the self-discipline to manage the uses of AI. And bringing that kind of vocabulary, that kind of mindset, that kind of thinking into industry, into the development of the business models are essential if AI can bring and deliver the promises that we all hope for without the risk.
Thank you, Tom. Very interesting what you tried to say, and I see that the business, even being not prepared till today, organize themselves to be prepared to share assets, and that's great what you can observe and from your intervention. Marc Grobelnik, who is with us, and I would like to invite you to short 2 minutes advocem to the Tom Eddington. How the organization, international organization in which you are engaged, is preparing for that kind of maybe the gaps and asymmetry, what Tom tried to set.
Yeah, Robert, thanks. So Tom nicely referred to the whole thing as this Prometheus moment. Yeah, it's true, right? I mean, we can see this on a scientific side, right, and as well as on the commercial side by all the indicators. Now, one aspect which is kind of relevant. So it's true. On one side, we have all these international organizations, which Robert, you listed before, right? This includes OECD, Council of Europe, including NATO, UNESCO, and a few more, which are trying to regulate, right, this AI. Most of this regulation actually started in like 2018, 19, right? So definitely years before the so-called ChatGPT moment. So this is this Prometheus moment which Tom mentioned, right? And so back then AI was kind of slow. We were regulating or discussing AI, which was happening within that year. So certainly AI, which was happening either after year 2000 or after 2010, which didn't have that huge tempo as now, right? And then what happened, so in late 22, this ChatGPT moment happened, and all the regulators basically got confused. This includes especially the regulators which had a plan to bring legally binding documents. So this would be Council of Europe and EU, right? And it was unclear what to do, right? Because the principle of work was different, right? And now what's happening during 2023 is that somehow all these organizations are trying to adapt. What we see, there are basically two major principles, right? So one is this a little bit slower democratic way of preparing the regulation, right? And this is what most of these organizations are doing. On the other hand, there's one more like innovative approach on how to establish this balance between the power of AI and some kind of public trust, and how to possibly prevent dangers. This is what US and Canada did just recently. So Canada just maybe 2 weeks ago, US maybe months or months and a half ago, right? So this is this voluntarily conduct between companies, big tech companies, selected big tech companies, and the government, right? So this is something which is kind of established, or kind of established trust by a handshake, right? Which is also kind of interesting. And so this is what how I see development of the whole thing in this last year in particular, right? And just the last statement, right? So this year I visited many events. So unfortunately I couldn't be physically in Japan, but I was basically traveling for the last 3 months on all sorts of AI events. So what Tom was saying about companies trying to running for, well, commercial values or land grab as a market grab, right? I would say this is mostly true. Yeah, this is mostly true, and there are at least two levels, right? At least two levels of this competition. One is between companies themselves, right? So at least on the Western side, we have 3-4 companies which are fighting for this major stake. So this includes Microsoft, AWS, so Amazon, Google, and Meta to some degree, right? Although running mostly on AWS, right? So this is between a company. This is kind of market competition. On the second level, you have geopolitical competition, which is mostly goes between US, Europe, and China. China is coming, and China is good, right? They have all the brain you can imagine. They just lack the hardware, right? So, but it's likely will get compensated as well. So, okay, not to be too long, right? Because this is just the
2 minutes
comment, but these are a couple of thoughts on Tom's.
Thank you, Mark. That was good comments. You make a very big essence of 4 years of working in an international organization, and you actualize our new considerations. Now you're looking for how to cover the gaps, how to deal with the challenges. Eddie, if we are so far, is it still missing with you?
Yes, yes. I will just short because I know that we are missing time. First, this is what we try to do in Global Artificial Intelligence Alliance. We try to find the right question. We didn't looking for the answer, because I think this is the question are moving us. The question are changing the reality. And this was the one of the question which you asked me. I think we need a good question. We should start thinking and asking ourselves what we don't know, what we don't understand. Second things. I think again, I will come back to this. I think that we forget that the rules and regulations is not everything. That what the Kant said, the starry sky above me, the moral law between me. This is what we should have. We should start it from ourselves. If we are thinking about creating AI, about creating any kind of the technology which can destroy that to help us, we start to think about ourselves and asking who we are, what we are doing, what is the most important for us, what kind of ethics, what kind of the world we would like to create in the future. And I think this is the things. We don't know really what kind of the world we want to create. I think we are still busy with the time which is now, and we are not asking ourselves how the future should look like, because we don't know. We didn't have the imagination. We didn't have enough imagination. We need a good question. We need to remember that everything started from ourselves, not from technology, not from law, not from something which is outside of us.
You said that you would like to additionally ask the Mark for
yes, because I know Mark, we have this amazing conversation with you when you spent few years asking the people about the future, and if you can just, I will give you my time, if you can just in
Mark,
2-3 minutes.
We changed structure, but only 1 minute, yes, please.
You remember the question which you asked the people about how they see the future. I love what you said.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just showing my screen now, and hopefully you can see it, because I want to tell you about that real quick. So I asked this question, and it's an old question. We've been asking it for over 70 years. It's, what does a world that works for everyone look like for you? And it's a big, huge social experiment that I've conducted. I've asked 3,500 people on video this question. This question was on podcasts, on videos at events. Most of the people I've asked are authors. And some interesting things happen. When I ask them the question, what does a world that works for everyone look like for them?
Mark, excuse me.
Each and every-
Excuse
yes?
me. We have some technical problem with your presentation. We have like a ping pong coming and disappearing. Stroboscope issue. I don't know if it's specially prepared because it could be like an advertisement in the movie, but probably not. Oh, maybe.
I can do it again. Just 1 second. Sorry about the technical.
Okay, maybe you.
Okay, hold on. Here it is.
Yeah. Hold on. So that may be. We come back with your turn, next turn to this, but David. Okay, well now we see it. Okay, we'll come back to you, Mark, please. Now we have a problem with voice.
We miss you, Mark.
Yeah, excuse me, and we come back to this in some minutes, but in the prepared structure of our discussion, the next intervener of advocates and to your speech was the David. David, only 2 minutes to say if Eddy Foundation, the GAIA Foundation is prepared to do something.
Yes. So Global Artificial Intelligence Alliance.
Yeah.
We founded this, co-founded it with a group, small group, but with the intention of making something truly global that would be democratic for people, individuals to get involved, but also to incentivize corporations and governments and NGOs and many other people, anybody who has an interest in the future of life and how AI can help, could get involved and benefit from this. And so the idea of big questions, of questing,
yeah.
is very important. So having the right incentives for people to be involved becomes really important. Gamification is a principle that goes beyond games. Like profit incentive for companies, it can be real, but also for individuals where they have access. So there's a couple of things. One is, how do you create this kind of democracy of action? And I think that the crowdsourcing of market dynamics can really help, like voting in and you get something back. And people's information then becomes really valuable. And instead of just taking it, having them sign a license like many companies do, just like give their data away, people should be able to have their voice heard and participate by licensing in. So this kind of global data commons can be quite useful. A global AI commons can be incredibly powerful. There's this old story of the stone soup where there's no food. Everybody says there's no food, but one person says, I'm going to feed the whole village with this stone. But everybody else has to put in something as well. And you put in the stone, and then somebody brings carrots, somebody brings potatoes, somebody brings other ingredients, and pretty soon you have a big pot of soup that feeds everybody. So if we do this with AI in a way that that benefits the people who bring something to the table, we could see AI get smarter faster, but in a way that is truly inclusive and transparent. And the researchers in the world who don't have access, the people who don't have access to AI have access. But we have to include people from all over the world. It really has to include the people in developing nations who don't have access to this technology. It has to include leadership from the indigenous community. It has to include the children of the world. And so we need what we have come to call the guardians, the Gaia guardians, the guardians of the world. We need people who step forward to be representatives in order to open the channels up for everybody else to have a voice. So then that idea of action, the companies of the world actually right now are the ones that are out doing and getting stuff out there because they have to. So we have to.
David.
We just have to see that urgency. So thank you.
David, thank you for that intervention. We need to fight with time. Excuse me. I will with pleasure to listen to you longer, and everybody here in the panel. Now I would like to ask the Marko Grobelnik, maybe for understanding and share some thoughts. Is it technically and from the engineer point of view possible to define compassion approaches, principles to the system, artificial intelligence? How you see this, Marko? You have 8 minutes to take to.
8 minutes. I'll try to be shorter because I think I spent some time before more than was planned. But so the question is, does the current technology allows us to approach this compassionate AI and all the terms which are or concepts which are lying below, and this includes concepts like empathy, values, right, and also there's how to construct and maintain a tissue, societal tissue between people or actors in a society. This would be basically living being, right? So short answer, is it possible or no? Yes, I think actually after this ChatGPT moment in this November 22, right, year ago, roughly 11 months ago, it's actually first time in the history of AI that we can even think about this, right? Why? Because AI before was missing one extremely important element, and this was, let's say, this text understanding. Text understanding, which with this ChatGPT or large language models, we are kind of approaching. We really don't understand the text yet, right? But we can mimic text understanding to that degree that it's good enough, right? So this is the current status, right? So these LLMs are literally just in a way reflecting what we are putting in. So we put in the whole web, right? And these LLMs are reflecting what we put in. But since this is so much of information, we get a feeling that actually these machines are smart. And they actually, it is pretty impressive moment in the development of AI that we can do something like this, right? What else as an ingredient of this current AI technology is there? So it's not just reflecting, so retrieval of what we put in, but there are kind of limited capabilities of inferencing or reasoning as well, right? It's not perfect, but there exists this elements of deductive reasoning, a little bit less on induction, right? Which which machine learning is covering on a separate track. Machines are extremely good on abductive reasoning, right? And also amazingly good on parts of causal reasoning, right? So why I'm saying this? So these are kind of ingredients on the top of which we can then develop this compassionate AI as a functional system, right? Now, from the other side, right? So what is AI, right? AI is kind of this nice term which we use now for, I don't know, 70, 80 years, right? But on the other hand, we can say that AI is an area or science of complexity. We have also separate also this complexity science, which mostly physicists are working on, right? But also AI by itself is dealing with complexity. As it was said before, right? So I think David said before, right? That AI is looking for these complex patterns in basically data which are coming mostly in organic way from the society. So so the AI basically is solving fairly complex problem. Now, can it do something like compassion? Yes, I think, right? So if we, I will use now a fairly mathematical way of expressing, if we want to develop an operator, right? Mathematical operator, which we would call compassion, right? Compassion, and which would consist from empathy, positive human values or liberties, as it was said before, and holding the societal tissue in a kind of positive way. Yes, then we can approach, I would say, with these ingredients, as I said before. So reflecting the human knowledge and data on one side with some limited capabilities of reasoning. Yes, these are ingredients where we can approach. Now, how this could be implemented, we could easily implement this as an additional like layer on the top of the existing, not just AI, but also IT system, which could, let's say, try to understand and try to guide or steer the decisions of IT or AI systems. So this is something which I think it's implementable at this stage. Can companies do this? Companies actually are doing a little bit of this. I mean, even if let's say in the last 1 year, if you remember the first version of ChatGPT, how it was in November last year, and the version how it responds today, it changed a lot, right? So it doesn't allow certain negative queries and so on. But they achieved this not by any kind of, let's say, higher level philosophical approach, but by a fairly simple red teaming. This is the term, right? Yeah. Where you have an army of people which are kind of just killing the bad questions. So I would imagine that compassionate AI would be something more, which would have a little bit more philosophical and societal values built in by itself, and the system which would be fairly generic on the top of this.
Thank you.
Now, not to be too long, I will stop here. I could talk way more.
Thank you very much. We have a limited time, but thank you very much, Marko, for a very short intervention. I a bit changed my structure of that hall, trying to keep the time for some audience. And now I would like to invite Marc Buckley come back to say something how it will be, how we can impact from that perspective on compassion the SDG agenda. If you are still with us, it's okay, but we have a limited time, only 5 minutes to keep last 5 minutes for audience. Thank you. We don't hear you.
Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, now yes.
Okay, and you can hear me, great. So
we don't hear you, but we see your screen. United Nations has some problems with connection. Or not, only some country, United States. Okay, Marc, excuse me, we have a limited time, and let's give the floor for our audience in the room or in online. If somebody has some questions or some comments, you are invited. We have limited time. Excuse me, this is the last 11 minutes. Maybe Marc come back. Please, Mr. Michał, you are from Poland.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me through the mic?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I represent a government, but it really doesn't matter. We are in Chatham House rules right now, and I really like the way we throw ourselves into a philosophical discussion, because AI development takes a philosophical discussion to go on to still be open. And for me, the topic is so complex that I had to take some notes in order not to get lost in what I'm trying to say. So if I, thank you very much. This is a very interesting point about compassion, and the way I see this is if you just have a spectrum, you know, and you put compassion on a spectrum, then there must be limit to what is still compassionate for AI to do and what is no longer compassionate, right? And so what is compassionate? And the most intuitive answer would be whatever has us developing is compassionate. And this is, I guess, this is not the right answer, because a better one would be developing, and still making us more human, right? That might be more compassionate, right? Than just have us something that has us developing all the time, because there has to be a limit to what is achievable, you know. And I have a question. I was desperate to ask you this question. You don't have to answer the question right now. I very much like what you said about your definition of compassion and whatever, I mean, the appreciation of life, right? And my question to perhaps have you talking about what's compassionate, what is compassionate, and what is not compassionate. You know, I mean, would you deploy AI to mass the genetics of a sheep, for example, in order to cure human cancer? Would that still be compassionate? I mean, it works for the humans, right? It doesn't work for sheep, right? And it has us developing in a humanly manner. And that would, you know, I'd like to pick up your brain on this, because that would tell me a little bit more about what do you think is compassionate, right? And where is the limit of compassionate? Are we the ultimate, our development, is it the ultimate goal of this AI compassionate-based concept? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michał, for your intervention. Maybe before David, you jump. First of all, I think we need to deal more with our human compassion state. Our level of this could be under question now. And I thank you for that ship comparison, working in OECD, producing some values for artificial intelligence and principles. Finally, we got it, what I tried to underline on the beginning, that animal, it's important. We have a conjunction between the human and planet. This is a principle. And now, that was at that time, that was very deep conversation, what is first in the hierarchy, human, just now, artificial intelligence on something between. David, please intervene, if you can take it.
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of ethical systems that we have are laws or regulations, and this includes things like regulations that are protecting animal rights for research purposes, and how you have to do these ethical review boards to be able to do science with the animals. Effectively, what that is an attempt to weigh the cost and benefits, and then represent the ethical conundrums that occur. So it's a kind of it's very much like what Marko was talking about the kind of almost a Boolean logic of compassion, like you run through a calculation, is it worth it? Well, I mean, sometimes if you're smarter, you don't have to sacrifice ethics in one situation or create suffering in, say, a sheep animal model in order to achieve some medical breakthrough. Maybe you can do that in silico instead, in a simulation, and be able to achieve the same thing. But right now, we're not smart enough to be able to do that. But we might also not be smart enough to be able to be as compassionate as we could. So can we use these technologies, the silico, to enhance human compassion, to be able to run these kinds of calculations? Maybe we can. Maybe it's a worthy quest.
We have a.
So just
We
may
have a
I add
next
something because
questions.
just one thing, because if we believe that AI can create super AI and super AI and super AI, maybe maybe artificial intelligence can create super compassion and super compassion, because
And superhuman.
and superhuman too, but for sure, but sure can push us forward to understanding not about only when we start to understand better human nature, we start to understand better compassion. And I deeply believe that we can use AI to create super compassion. Then the answer will be completely different than the answer we have now. This is why I'm talking about the questions.
Thank you, Eddie, for taking the. No, we have two people who would like to take us, even four. We have only 5 minutes. Please, short question, short answer. Christian, welcome you with us.
Thank you, Christian Ramsar from the OECD. I have a very brief question. Is it fair to say that at this current stage of AI, where I see at least AI being more close to software than being to a human being, that the level of compassion is essentially dictated and kept by the level of compassion of humans? And is it fair to even say that it's probably kept by the level of compassion of those that have the capacity to develop that, which are currently those with the financial resources?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, Marko, I would like to ask people from online. Please take it.
Very quick answer. Yeah, at the moment, the whole thing is in the hands of the big tech. This is maybe 5, certainly less than 10 spots in the world which can do something like this. But there is good prospect that things may change in the future. So just to keep the answer short, I'm not pessimist. I think things are going in a good direction. It's just things. So basically, what we are witnessing now in the last year are something which I never expected I will witness in my life, right? So, and this is the same for most of my colleague scientists, right? So. And we are all still watching what's happening.
Thank you,
but the answer is
Marko.
yes.
I can confirm this because we very often work together. That is possible, and we can develop our existence outputs to new compassion even approaches. Yes. Last, we have only 4 minutes. I need 1 minute for my intervention. Very quick questions. Very quick questions. I don't know who would like to take it.
Sure, I will have a very quick question to
3
David.
minutes for all of us.
My name is Katarzyna Steciwa. I represent the National Research Institute in Poland, and my area of expertise is preventing and combating child sexual exploitation and abuse. So my question refers to what you have said, and that you would like to include people from all over the world to have their say. Then how would you secure voices of children in this process, especially knowing that generative AI can also can now produce child sexual abuse materials, so real children can be victimized by using their artificially generated photos or videos for these purposes. So how to make voices of children included in the process of creating compassion within the AI.
You asked that question for somebody specifically, or
to David, because
David,
he was talking about it.
David, only 15 seconds.
Yes. Thank you. Excellent
my
question.
compassion.
And I think the key is having strong guardians. So we have to find people who have proven themselves to be really doing good work for the world, and it has to be inclusive. It can't just be like from one subgroup of humanity. And we have to name the values that we're aiming for. And so those values that harm life, that harm children, that lead to this kind of destruction are not welcome in the future. They shouldn't be welcome. We need guardians who take that stand, who guard our children, and then also give those children a voice as well, so they can participate. Because often we don't hear. There are no children in this room, and I think that the children have almost, preternatural
15
insights into the
Thank you.
world. So through mechanisms like what we call the guardians, we can create a more inclusive democracy.
Thank you, David. 15 seconds last very short question, please. You present yourself, and we have. Yeah. Probably.
Thank you. My name is Shizuka Morika, and I'm just thrilled to hear what you all had to say. And in terms of what I feel missing is provide right incentives to for-profit corporations, especially in the U.S. And we just, perform to the expectations and for the rewards. And I've been wondering, how can we get rid of the quarterly earning, regulations? Because European countries, they have done it, many of them, right? But I've been wondering, how can we get the U.S. to stop quarterly earning requirements?
U.S., if I could understand, started to that process. Yes. Maybe it's not so proper. That's a different approach. A responsible AI, more than trustworthy. This is that. Of course, because that discussion today appeared. Yes. Last question, Mr. Takashida from Japan, and last intervention. Anyone who would like to.
Thank you for inviting me, Robert, and thank you all for your inspiring talks. I don't have a question, but I actually have a last statement to make. Number one, AI as a term is quite outdated. Artificial intelligence, what does that mean? I think that reflects the relationship of man-machine relationship as master and slave. As long as humans do, engage machine or AI in that way, you have the risk and the fear. But now we have to redefine what true intelligence is. And in my opinion, that's compassion. And David mentioned about possibility of sentient machines. So that's totally possible on the ground that we elevate our consciousness with compassion, and we have some invention on the way, as Ray Kurzweil mentioned in the spiritual machine. So I'm totally optimistic for the future of compassion AI. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your good comments from the Japan culture and your experience of life. Thank you for that. I would like to ask our online colleagues, especially maybe Marc and Tom, if you could comment very shortly, only 15 seconds because we don't have time, even if we pass the time. If you would like to have last intervention, please, you are welcome. If not,
yeah, I'll go ahead and share one closing comment. From my perspective, we have to be intentional and architect compassion into the development of, whether we call it artificial intelligence, silicon intelligence, whatever we call it. We have to be intentional about architecting compassion into it. If we don't, it will evolve into whatever it's going to evolve into, and we can't allow that to happen. And we're running out of time to bring that intentionality to the work.
Thank you, Tom, very much. Marc, your last chance, only 30 seconds.
I think artificial intelligence is probably occurred because we're called Homo sapiens, a wise man. So we think we're wise and have a lot figured out. And so now as we create our new children, artificial intelligence, and we give them compassion and ethics and the guidance, which we're hoping to do with GAIA and this group here today, I think we can have it live up to that name, that when us as the fathers or the creators of AI ask it to do something that goes against life or humanity, that our children, artificial intelligence, come back and say to us, no, we're not going to destroy or hurt those other human beings. Instead, we're just going to talk to the other AIs on the other end or the other culture and work it out like decent beings or intelligent beings would, instead of dividing ourselves amongst one another. And so I really have high hopes that we can build those ethics and that compassion into AI, and that we can use it as strong tools to help us get on the right side of history, that we use this technology to really get out of the Anthropocene into the Symbiocene, into a new age of Homo symbiosis and all sentient and all life beings on Earth.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. This is time to make some conclusions. For me, I was super happy that you can share your thoughts, your considerations, and interacting with our panelists. I'm super happy about the question were come to our discussion. Even very serious questions, but need to be addressed. And what I would like to propose as a call to action, the two approaches. First thing could be, let's have impact on this way to prioritize the UNESCO ethical recommendation over the SDG agenda, and in the same moment and redefine the SDG agenda to enrich it by technology and especially ethical approach, ethical usage, ethical deployment of the technology. That will be one thing. And second thing, trying to find a common understanding of compassion. Especially I underline compassion, not so much compassionate, but compassion is the next step after the empathy approach to compassionate. Compassion as a verb, as an activity, as a noun, as an understanding, as a knowledge, deep flying, swimming in that substance and future appreciation of other people. I would like to propose the call to produce AI Compassion Bridge Charter. Why bridge? But we have some papers, we have some resolutions, some recommendation, but we get from today's town hall that we have some gaps. And I invite many people and international organizations, our audience, participants, to produce that kind of AI Compassion Bridge Charter and engaging network for compassion approach to artificial intelligence. That I get it as a call for action for next year, not more. That will be that we need to act very quickly. And I welcome very much next summit of compassion. That will be, the location will be announced, but I would like to find the bigger network of AI guardians, developed part of that AI charter. And Eddie, if you would like to have closer remarks.
I just would like to, I just want to invite you to Salzburg in March, 6-8 March for AI Impact Summit. We need all people who want to help. We need all organizations who want to have the impact, who understand that with AI we can really have the impact for the world. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. And see you in the future compassion.